Hello, Road to the Trials listeners. This is Lindsay Hine. Today I'm joined with Peter Bromka, my co-host, and we have Elena Hayday on the podcast. She just ran a huge PR in Boston, 2:24. Wow, big day for her, big breakthrough day. She runs with Minnesota Distance Elite. She was 13th at the Boston Marathon this spring, 12th at the New York City Marathon in the fall. She is one of our qualifiers for the Olympic Marathon Trials. She's currently working towards a graduate degree in neuroscience, and we are so excited to share her story on the podcast today. This episode of the podcast is supported by ZBiotics. Make ZBiotics your first drink of the night for a better tomorrow. If you choose to partake in an alcoholic beverage for the weekend, for a celebration, for any reason at all, start with this pre-alcohol, then drink responsibly, and enjoy tomorrow. I am very particular about what I put into my body, and I'm very particular about how I want to feel when I wake up in the morning. And if I do choose to have a cocktail, like I might tonight because it's Friday and we're going to go to the pool, I am going to start with ZBiotics. And you can try it out. If you don't want to completely give up the alcohol, but you want to enjoy your morning, try out ZBiotics probiotics. Go to zbiotics.com/trials26 to learn more and get 15% off your first order when you use the code trials26 at checkout. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee, so that if you're unsatisfied for any reason, they'll refund your money, no questions asked. Remember to head to zbiotics.com/trials26 and use the code trials26 at checkout for 15% off. All right, friends, I hope that you enjoy our conversation with Elena. All right, friends, welcome to the show. We have Elena Hayday on the podcast today, cross-promoting this episode on both I'll Have Another and Road to the Trials. So I'm joined with my co-host, Peter Bromka. Welcome to the show, Elena.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on.
How is your day going?
It's going well so far. I've been doing graduate work all day, so not much in the way of running. So it's nice to take a break and have some time to chat with you guys.
2:24 in Boston. You deserve a break.
That's what's so funny about doing the running thing alongside school is I have teammates who ran wonderfully in Boston and then they're off doing like an international trip right now. And I came back the week of Boston, had like 3 different deadlines I had to meet. So just got thrown right back to the wolves. But we're trying to spread out some celebrations.
In Boston. I was cheering on the side of the road. I think I probably yelled to you and the pack. And I think for a lot of us, we knew it was going to be a nice day, but then it like really culminated in like a really special day. Not just the weather, but then how everyone responded to that. I was curious, what was it like for you to realize like, oh, today's the day, like it's on, game on 100%?
A lot of us had been checking the weather quite a bit over the few days before the marathon. And I think beyond the weather, there were just a lot of us who were kind of like, you can't run that many marathons in your life. And of the marathons you run, not many of them you're going to have a perfect weather day. And so if you're
Mhm.
going to have a perfect weather day, it's probably not time to be conservative about your approach. So I think a lot of us just mentally were like, we're just going to do it and hopefully we don't fall apart. And the result was that a lot of people, including myself, I like to think kind of had like breakout days.
So exciting. Yeah, I would say you, Cody Clevin, and Carrie Elwood are the 3 women pro runners who I was like, oh, wow, this is something special happening right here. And for you and for the other 2 women, it probably doesn't totally feel out of the blue. You know, like when we see a PR on paper of 2:30:51, we might be like, whoa, where'd 2:24 come from? That's crazy. But I know that you have a story that led you there that looks differently than we might assume. What were your goals coming into the race, like weather aside?
So my public goal going into the race, and not like Instagram public, but like what I was telling my friends and family was I was going to try to run 2:26. But I had talked to my coach the week before the race, and he told me to go out in a 72, which kind of opened the possibility to run 224, but obviously it's hillier the second half, so there was a possibility that I was going to fade. Um, but I think I did pretty much exactly what I set out to do. Like, I think when I crossed the line, I didn't feel particularly surprised by the time, but that's also because I knew that I had quite a few marathons before this where I was going for like 227 or
Mm.
faster and it just didn't come together.
What's it like to put the goals out into the world? I've often said that like press conferences or like, what are your goals tomorrow? Are just like, why are we doing this? Like, like, why are we forcing people to both endure the pressure and like sort of, I'm not like sure if they're lying. It's just like, let's just run the race. But so how do you just think about what to say versus what to hold close?
I think I'm fortunately still in a position where I'm not like a press conference person. Like, there's not a lot of pressure on me no matter what I do. I mean, maybe going forward there will be a little bit. So it's mostly like friends and family and teammates that are curious. And so that feels like I have to hold things a little bit less close because it's not going to be like totally public facing. But I do think about, when people are asked at press conferences, I think when people set big goals and then they don't meet them, they tend to get a lot of backlash, which I personally really
Mm.
don't like because I'm like, I think it's cool that they're trying and that they're like calling their shot. So I do think that in general, we should be more open to that and just know that the marathon is really fickle and you can be ready for a time and still not run it for 3 years, at least in my case. So
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
I was going to say, I should say there might be more than that group of three that I mentioned, but you three are the ones that stand out to me. I'm like, I should really go study that finisher list to make sure I'm not leaving anybody out. Um, what was the season like where you were taking those swings at the 226, 227 and not having the days that you hope to have?
yeah, I was joking with some of my teammates before Boston that I feel like I've had a series of very different marathon buildups and very different marathons and had all the same results. So the first marathon that I did competitively, which was that 2:30:51, I approached it pretty conservatively, both in terms of training and racing, because I'd never tried to run a marathon that fast before. And I ended up finishing with my fastest mile and feeling like I had a lot more in the tank. And then the next marathon I did was a year after that, and I'd been trying. Well, first I dropped out of the last trials, hopefully that doesn't happen again. Um, and so then I tried to make the track trials, this was in 2024, and missed by about 10 seconds, and
Mm.
when I kinda knew that wasn't gonna happen, I had, like, 4 to 5 weeks to Grandma's marathon, and my coach and I were like, "Let's run a marathon." So that was a crazy short marathon build, and, my coach at the time, Jerry, and I still were like, "Well, you can probably run, like, 2:27, you might be in that kind of fitness." But on the day, I just hadn't done enough marathon workouts, and I started hurting at, like, mile 10 and just kinda slogged it into another 2:31. Um, and then I ran New York last fall, and I was
Mhm.
on track for like a 2:28 type of day. And then I had some huge stomach issues at like mile 24 and a half and was on the side of the road vomiting for 2.5 minutes and
Ugh.
then jogged it into a 2:31. So I was like, it just keeps happening.
Ugh.
Um, so going into Boston was like, I really need to address some of these issues, mostly the stomach. And I had a longer buildup, which was really helpful. And yeah, I feel like the time kind of finally came together.
Yeah, I saw on your Instagram that you said like you were leaving New York a little heartbroken. That's so hard to get that far into the race and then to have that issue. I mean, you were like, you can't say I'm almost there at mile 20, but you can say that at mile 24 and a half because even if you like slow down by 30 seconds a mile, like you're getting there. So that's gosh, I'm so sorry that happened.
Honestly, I think it was good. I wouldn't have said that if you had asked me in November, but it really pushed me to work on training my gut. And through that, I started working with a dietitian who also identified some other imbalances in my diet. And so I feel like overall, it's been a really positive experience. And I think if I had had another marathon where I kind of threw up at the end, but like didn't lose so much time, I probably would have never tried to work with a professional.
Wow. What sorts of things did you change?
So I have been vegan for about 8 years. And I
Okay.
am someone who eats pretty intuitively, and I was having, like, a vegan yogurt and some tofu every day and kind of just assumed that that was what I needed for protein, and she had me actually track for a couple days and identified that I was getting, like, 20 to 25 grams of protein a day, which is nowhere near the recommended
Mhm.
amount, especially for an athlete. Um, and I'd been having like some recovery problems for the last couple of years, but I also run my easy runs too fast. So I was kind of like, it's probably that. But she started having me do a really protein heavy breakfast and then also doing like a protein drink after workouts in the morning, where previously I would maybe have some water and then eat like 2 hours later. And my recovery this spring has just been like exponentially different.
I feel like there's so many things we know as athletes, like we should do, but then you're pointing out, like, does it actually come to fruition in your daily life, your busy life? What's it been like to integrate new ways of working as an athlete when you are running off to like do real work and not just like we can make fun of people who lay around and wait for their double a little bit on this podcast.
Yeah, I think that there's been a strange part of me that's been sort of resistant to doing some of the extra athlete stuff. And I think part of it is I feel like I'm balancing this athlete versus student thing, and I'm like, "Oh, I don't wanna lean too hard into the athlete thing because then it's real." And so some of these kind of extra
Mhm.
things I've just been pushing off, but I think once I started working with professional, it was sort of hard to ignore it. And luckily, I mean, the things that she was recommending, it's pretty easy to integrate into my daily life. It's like you pack a little protein shake with you and drink it at your desk. It's not too different.
Can you tell us about your team, how long you've been a part of that team and what it looks like? I interviewed JP Trojan a few months ago, and he was telling us about his experience with the squad and why he joined. It's a really cool team.
Yeah, so I'm on Minnesota Distance Elite. I joined in August of 2024. So prior to that, I was working out in Washington, D.C., and I was on kind of an elite club team called Georgetown Running Club. And so I was working with that coach for about 2.5 years while I was working. And I had a wonderful experience with GRC, but I knew that I wanted to take things a little bit more professional and see if I could start working with a coach who had the time to kind of individualize our training a little bit more. So my previous coach, Jerry, he was a great coach and but he also had another job and so
Mm.
he would kind of write training for everybody and we would all run similar workouts just at different paces. And I knew from getting a lot of tendon injuries that maybe that was not something that my body was responding to really well. And so I was excited to come work with Chris Lundstrom of Minnesota Distance Elite because he does have the time to really take into account everybody's recovery and the types of workouts that work best for us. So that has been definitely a big benefit since I joined MDE. And so the team has probably about 30 people now. We keep rapidly expanding, but it's been going since I believe the early 2000s. And we have people who are on the team still that have been on there since like the mid 2010s. And,
Oh,
yeah, we've got a lot of really great athletes on it. I think the most, uh, famous would be Dakota Popehn, formerly Dakota Lindworm, and also Annie Frisbie. But yeah, we also have just a ton of athletes that are working really hard and seeing a lot of great results.
You spoke to something that I think a lot of marathoners feel is that even everyday marathoners feel this, just that like decision to go all in, like that decision to say, like, okay, yes, 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 I do have school still going on and I have these other things going on, but like, if I invest in all these other things, the dietitian, a more detail oriented coach who can, take me on more individually, all the things, then suddenly the stakes feel higher. Like I'm really going for this. And I mean, I think it's one of the most common things people do is they give themselves outs because it's so scary to be like, "No, I'm all in." So can you talk about that process?
Yes, you are exactly right, and I feel like you put words very well. It's what I was trying to describe earlier. And I think for me, it's been kind of a slow process that kind of built to a head probably around December of last year, where I was, I mean, the real reason that I moved to Minnesota was for graduate school. But while I was trying to choose graduate school, I was also talking to coaches, and I was like sort of trying to pretend that that wasn't influencing my decision, and I was like, "I wanna move back to Minnesota for my family," which is also true, but then I was
Oh,
also like, "But
yeah.
it would be great if I could work with MDE as well," and so I'm gonna say I chose it for all of those reasons. School is also great, and over the first year that I was on MDE, I think I was just seeing the success that other people were having under the same coach and kind of starting to see all the extra things that they were doing, both with their diet and also, I mean, some of them sleep in altitude tents, things that I'm still not doing. They're very much all in. But it kind of started by osmosis almost. I was like, oh, here are little things that I can pick up to kind of start feeling like I'm all in. And then after New York, because I'd gotten so close to having a great race, like a couple miles away from having a great race, I remember having a conversation with my partner. I think it was on New Year's Eve. And I was like, I really think that Boston, I can do something. And I really think that it's time for me to like actually commit myself to this. And I don't know if he'd want me to say this, but he was almost like a little bit taken aback and was like, okay, but like, you're gonna be really devastated if it doesn't go well. And I was like, I know, but I think I wanna try anyway. So I feel like that's sort of been my mindset all spring.
Wow. Okay, so the other piece of this that I'm thinking about is, um so you've had this in you, right? Like you got the nutrition dialed in, but like you've had a much faster than 2:30:51 in you for a little bit now. But now that you hit the 2:24, it's an interesting conversation to talk about times. We were just talking to Sarah Ryder about this. She's a 2:31 marathoner, about how
Oh, I
like,
know her. From
Sarah?
Hood River? Yeah, she's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. Yeah. She was our interview just 2 hours ago. She was just on before you. But we were just talking to her about, like, there's this crop of runners now who are running, like, those low 2:30s, like 2:31, who are all like, "I wanna break 2:30," right? And so that 2:28, 2:27, 2:29, that used to be like, "Oh, you got a contract, like, you're in it now," is that time has moved, and I would say that now that you've hit that 2:24, you've joined this other crop of runners who are chasing really fast times, and I wonder, have you been able to process, like, what this could mean for your long-term career, and has it also opened up your mind to thinking like, "Oh gosh, if I can do this, what else can I do?"
Yeah, I would say it has definitely opened up more questions about, what I wanna do long term. I am in a PhD program right now, and would never wanna go through the first year of a PhD program again, so no matter what, I am finishing out my program, um, but as you get further into a program, or at least my program, it tends to get more like you're just gonna be doing research, it's kind of more like a 9 to 5, so I think that I will continue to be able to balance. Longer term than that, I think once I graduate, I'm gonna have to maybe make a decision if I can kind of put academia on the back burner for a little bit and go all in on running, just knowing, I can do science for my whole life if I want to, but I'm potentially not gonna be able to run at this level for my whole life. That's probably like 3 or 4 years off.
When do you graduate?
So it's a little bit weird with like biological sciences PhDs. It's not necessarily like you're in it for a certain number of years. It's like you kind of create a body of work and then you defend your dissertation. Um, when everybody decides you're ready. So on average, that's like 5.5 years, but it can
Wow.
be 3.5 or it can be 9. Hopefully it's not 9 for me,
Where are
but
What
you
is the
at in the process?
specialty? Sorry.
I'm like 2.5 years in right now, and I'm working in neuroscience.
Yeah, I saw that neuroscience. Wow. What got you excited about wanting to pursue that?
I guess the story that I usually tell is that so I was a volleyball player for a long time, and I think it was in middle school. So I was a back row player and I would kind of throw myself all around to get the ball. It was my favorite thing. And I was at a volleyball camp and I smacked my head on the floor. And I ended up getting a pretty bad concussion. I lost the ability to track with my eyes for a little bit and I lost a lot of memory function. I remember standing at my locker, not being able to remember the combination and just like crying. Um, and so I did have to do a lot of rehabilitation for that, and it was the first time that I ever had thought about, like, brain function and, like, protecting your brain, and all the different things you lose when you don't. And I think that sort of planted the seed for college. I ended up going on to study neuroscience.
We actually just interviewed Hannah Rowe, who is a neuroscientist in the Boston area. And I'm curious what it is like to be an athlete. I was asking her the same thing. Like, you're thinking, or maybe not thinking about that mind body connection as you're performing. So I'm curious, like, when you're
Mm.
riding the bus, um, out to Hopkinton, when you're like sitting in the elite tent area, is this something you've thought through, like, "Oh, that's my body's nervous system doing what I've studied I know it does." I'm, like, curious how people who have actual knowledge of how this
Mm.
goes think about it.
Yeah, I would say that I do think about it a lot, but my control over everything is not greater than anybody else's. It's sort of like what I would equate it to is like, as someone who has gone through neuroscience classes and learned about how we learn and how we intake information, you know, or I know that you cannot cram for a test.
Huh.
Huh. I have crammed for many tests. Like, your brain can't hold that information, and yet I try to do it, and that's sort of what I would equate it to in terms of, like,
Yeah.
I know how I'm supposed to regulate my nervous system, and I know the techniques, and I try, but that doesn't mean I'm always successful.
You're part of this really cool team that does have, like, a very interesting cast of characters, and
Mm.
looking at your splits for Boston, can you talk us through how you went out with these other women who were on your team who were total crushers, like, names in the game, but, like, giving them space, but not too much space. It looks like you were about a minute behind Annie and Dakota at the half, which is, like, a good amount of time, but it's also, like, you're not just letting them go and running some other race. How did you think about how to approach that?
I actually did feel like I let them go and ran a whole
Oh,
other race because I don't know if you I'm the course has a lot of turns,
yeah.
so you can't really see people even if they're only a minute ahead, and so this is something that I would like to work on long term, but I tend to be a relatively risk-averse racer, so I've had a few races where I've gone out and died, and it was not a fun experience, as I'm sure you guys or everybody is familiar with.
Yeah.
And I've done workouts with Annie and Dakota where they just ended up crushing me in the end. And so I never really had a plan to run it with them. And I mentioned that my coach told me to go out in a 72. And so I was kind of like, I'm going to go out in a 72 and I hope to God that somebody is with me. And nobody was. I ran the majority of it alone. um,
Oh,
Oh,
so
wow.
it was yeah, I had some people for, like, maybe the first 6 miles, and then I started catching some people through the Newton Hills, but I had probably, like, a 10 to 12-mile stretch where I was just like,
ooh,
"Well, we're doing it," which luckily there's enough spectators, so it
that's
didn't feel like I
brutal.
was just doing a workout, but, it was a little yeah, it was a little lonely.
I mean, we all know that running in a pack feels easier. Looking back, do you think you should have stuck onto them even if it was a little too hot?
That's a good question. I've thought about this over the last couple of weeks, and I've sort of gone back and forth. I think on the one hand, I felt a lot more comfortable being in control of the pace and being like, I know that this is a pace my coach thinks I can run, and having it be like a breakout pace anyway. I don't know that I would have felt comfortable going faster, and I felt very like psychologically at ease during the race. Whereas if I had stuck in the pack, I wouldn't have maybe felt so at ease. On the other hand, I honestly, I think I slowed down a little bit over the last few miles, but I also felt pretty good. And I sort of felt
Yeah.
like when I was running by myself, I kept checking my watch and seeing the pace go below 5:30 and being like, "Ooh, time to pull back." And I almost
Oh.
wish that I had let go, and just gone with the pack and kind of seen what time came to me instead of, like, picking the time and then running it.
What were your emotions when you finally hit that goal and then some that you've been trying to hit?
I was just really happy. I started
Mhm.
crying at the finish 'cause I was just like, "Oh my god, finally." And then my partner was on the other side of the fence, like, right at the finish, and then he started crying, and I started crying more, and it was just, like, a really good moment, and then I found my parents after, and they were crying too, and it just made me realize, like, how much my support system has been, like, wanting this for me 'cause, nobody pushes me on it. Like, I had a phone call with my dad the night before, and he was like, "I hope you go and have a good time," and I was like, "Haha, you probably mean it both ways," and he was like, "Actually, no, I don't care what you run, I just want you to have fun." Like, they're very chill about my running goals, but I could tell afterwards that it's something that they've been wanting for me too.
This episode is brought to you by Precision Fuel and Hydration. They have so many products that meet all of your needs for an adaptable fuel and hydration plan, whether it's adjusting carbohydrates, hydration, electrolytes, or caffeine. Precision Fuel and Hydration at precisionhydration.com has the products you need to adapt to your training and then your racing. You can use code TRIALS26 for 15% off at checkout. I highly suggest you order a variety of things, see what works for you, see what you gravitate to. I've recently been loving the chews, which are not everyone's cup of tea. For me, they just feel like a nice breakup in the monotony of gel after gel after gel. And, there's a variety of times in the day when you just need a few more carbohydrates to perform at your best. And Precision Fuel and Hydration has those products for you. Thanks for being here.
I want to hear about working with Chris Lundstrom because I've talked to Dakota quite a bit about him over the years, and he's been such a steady presence in her life and in her career. So I'd love to hear about what that experience has been like for you.
I think steady is a great word to use for him. I think you probably mean it in the longitudinal sense, but he is also just like I almost want to say like stoic, like he clearly
Mm.
cares. But if you have a bad race, which I have had a bad race while working with him, he's just like, "Okay, what are we doing next?" And then if you have a good race, he'll obviously give you a hug. But I think it also keeps me very level because sometimes after like a bad race, I'll really want to spiral, and he's always just like, I don't know, it happens. So I think that's been super helpful. And I think one of the biggest training differences is that he really does do like periodization and he does like a big base building phase for every block. Whereas with my old team, I kind of used to just jump in with like speed workouts or like sub lactate threshold pace workouts, and just have them get faster throughout the season. Whereas Chris Lundstrom has us do like progression runs, and a lot of moderate pace runs before we even jump into speed, which for me has been helpful for injury prevention.
What kind of mileage did you do for this cycle? The boring question, I know, but we're all
Lindsay always
curious.
asks it. I
I
love
know
it.
I do, but like I just, because you have the Jess McLeans that run 80 miles a week and you have Dakotas that run 135 sometimes. So I'm like, where do you lie on the spectrum?
I would say that I lie closer to the Dakota side of the spectrum, but I'm not there, and I'm not sure if I ever want to run that many miles. But I, for most weeks during the cycle, did like 110 to 115. And then for peak week, I ran 122. It was supposed to be 120, but somehow I found a couple extra miles. And that
That's
was
You
my
high.
first time. Yeah, that was my first time over 115. So it was sort of like a let's see if I can do this and if I would end up feeling good doing it. And I did. So I'll probably throw in a couple more for my next cycle.
Dakota has spoken about the confidence she's gained from just
Mhm.
being out on the road quite a bit, and it sounds like were you running that volume at GRC, or was this sort of a new thing as
I
you
was
moved to the new
running
team?
close to that volume at GRC. I think I got up to 110 for my peak weeks when I was on GRC. But I think the amount of 100 plus mile weeks that I've run within a cycle has increased on MDE, if that makes sense. Like for GRC, I would maybe do it for like 3 to 4 weeks total. Whereas on MDE, I think my 100 plus mile weeks, I probably had like, I don't know, 8 for this cycle.
How often are you running with the team?
We run together 3 times a week, so 2
Okay.
practices and 1 long run. I think some
Oh,
people meet up other than that, but obviously I am working around school, so
I think it's fascinating your progression because I say GRC because the team's been around long enough that I have all sorts of friends who ran on it like 15 years ago. And it's just this like mainstay of the way amateurs train who are very serious. And
mm.
so then not only the personalization, but I'm curious if you can talk us through what it's been like to really level up in terms of the type of team you're on.
yeah, and I do wanna first say that I absolutely loved being on GRC.
GSC is
So,
awesome. I mean, I've
yeah.
raced against those people for years. But it's like, yeah, I was part of the Bowerman amateur
Oh,
team.
yeah.
And, you know, if people go, it's definitely noted when people cross over and start doing workouts
Mhm.
with the other guys. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
we got invited to do some workouts with, you know, the signed athletes.
After I left college running, I was working out, like, just on my own for a little bit and kind of training myself, and then I joined GRC and, started working out with, like, the group 3 guys there, and so I spent quite a few years, like, only working out with men, and it was interesting because I think I just kind of was like, "Oh, yeah, I think I'm pretty good, like, I'm the girl who can work out with the guys." And then when I crossed over, so to say, and started working out with MDE, and it was like suddenly not only was I working out with women, but they were so much faster than me. It was like sort of a shock to the system of like, oh, that's how good the top people are. But then conversely, as I've been able to start kind of pulling myself towards them over the last
Hmm.
year and a half or 2 years, it's definitely given me a lot of confidence to be like, if I know that they're the best in the country and I know that I'm close to them, then, like, I must be pretty good.
I love hearing that, that confidence. You ran for Oiselle for a little bit too, I'm right?
I was part of their Underbird program.
Oh, yeah.
Thunderbird, okay, yes, I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so it was, like, 6 months,
Is that for the 24
leading up to
trials?
the trials. Yeah, leading up to the 24 trials, so I was still with
Okay.
GRC at that point. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that program.
Yeah, so it was like an amateur support program type of deal going into the trials. So they provided us with some financial support, which I was super injured during that cycle. So that was great for me because I was doing a lot of PT.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
and yeah, oh yeah.
Not cheap.
Um, and yeah, they kind of gave us all a platform. We each wrote up kind of salient stories about our lives and our running journeys for one of their blogs and, yeah, then they, provided housing and transportation for the trials, and then we ran in their uniform.
I mean, I suppose if your level of mileage is that high and you've been there before, it's like wanting to get close to a threshold without hurting yourself. I mean, I think all runners know like you can't just hop in with, you know, doing someone else's workload. So how have you thought about like, oh, Annie's doing this, I could borrow that, or Annie's doing that, like not for me, not now. That's going to take
It's
time.
definitely it's definitely something that I have been working through a lot the last, like, year and a half because I have had workouts where I've tried to go with them, and as I mentioned, it hasn't gone well, but then sometimes I've had workouts, particularly, like, the longer workouts with Annie, I tend to be able to do. But I definitely, for this cycle, was on the line, like, I had 4 different tendon injuries during the cycle, luckily none of them None of them were bad enough to
Oh,
actually make me take time off of running, but it was just, like, one after another, and it told me that I was, like, on the tightrope. So for some of the workouts, I was like, I just need to run my pace and not their pace because it's not worth making anything worse. And it ended up working out pretty well. But yeah, I think that's going to be kind of an ongoing process, kind of day to day of like, should I be doing what they're doing today or should I just run within myself?
The program that you are in for school sounds so intense, and it's like, everybody's got the same 24 hours in their day, right? And like everybody's got their own stuff going on. And so it's not that it's like a comparison thing. I just wonder, like, when you care so deeply about two things, like you're holding them both up pretty high on like what matters in your life. I guess how do you process it day to day as far as like what am I going to prioritize? What matters most to me today?
I don't think I think about that day to day because when I'm in a training cycle, I just sort of have a routine. So it's like get up in the morning, do your run, go work in lab or go TA, whatever I have to do that day all day, do my second run, go home, make dinner. And then the thing that I've added this spring is like spend like 30 minutes doing rolling out in PT and then work more if I have to work. So it's just kind of like that's the cycle every single day. And I don't know how, but somehow I've ended up being a person that, like, feels good for. It sounds really boring, but I like being in that much routine.
We talked about like how you're, like you're going to get through school. You don't know like focusing more in depth on running will probably come because like you said you can do the neuroscience stuff for a long time. I guess what my brain goes to is if I just ran 224 and kind of had this breakthrough race, I would have a hard time like being patient to like just hammer and hammer and hammer. And so I wonder how you're thinking about these next 2 years, like leading up to the 2028 trials. Cause Elena, like 224, like you're a contender to make this team.
I don't know about that, but I appreciate you saying it.
You are.
Yeah, I think that in terms of times, that's it's definitely come up in my brain that I would love to run a bunch more marathons and try to get faster. But I actually just had that conversation with my agent where I was like laying out the next 2 years, and she was like, "Hey, you are gonna have to take a break at some point." And I was like, "Oh,
oh,
you're so right." So it's helpful to have people to kind of pull me back in that sense. Um, but yeah, I think I've also proven to myself that I can perform even when I'm, doing school at this level. Obviously, there's other tweaks that I can make and probably should make, like getting 8 hours of sleep a night would be great. And I think I'm gonna have to deprioritize some things to get there. Um, but I also don't think that it's holding me back as much as maybe other people think that it is. I think it is really important for me as someone with, like, a very busy brain to be doing things all day, and I have tried even just, like, on short breaks to do nothing but run, and I feel like I'm sort of going crazy. So, in an optimal world, I would probably like to work, like, 25 to 30 hours a week and just run otherwise, and we haven't had the official conversation yet, but if the trials is something that at that point it is time for me to prioritize, I can talk to my mentors about, like, maybe deprioritizing school for a little bit. But yeah, we'll do that in, 2027 when it's time to have that conversation.
How many hours of sleep on average do you think you get?
So I've been really good over this cycle, and I think I probably averaged, like, 7 to 7.5, which isn't horrible.
Okay. Yeah. Pretty decent. I mean, I get it though. Like you're asking a lot out of your body. So like 7.5 to someone who has like, like I work out 45 minutes a day and has a pretty, not so demanding on their body. That's a little bit different than someone running a 120-mile week. So yeah, I could see how needing more could be helpful, but I think it's good that you think
Yeah.
of it in this way that, like, it's not a detriment because it's not like you're getting 5 hours of sleep.
Yes, and there have been times that I have, and it hasn't gone well. So I know that I have to prioritize it this
Yeah.
much. And I always just assumed I was someone who didn't need like the 8 to 10 hours of sleep, but then I've had a couple periods where I've been able to get like 10 hours of sleep and my HRV went up so much. And I was like, "Oh, maybe that would be
Oh.
good."
Well, that's good to know that you can, like, if you really decide, like, I want to go more in on this, that you can take it, just extend, it would probably just extend the amount of time you're in school, right?
Yes, depending on, yeah, how
Okay.
much kind of time per week I deprioritized it. I will say, so I do like quantitative and computational work, so I can do everything from my laptop kind of whenever I want, and I usually try to meet like the 9 to 5 hours, but my mentors don't really care when I do my work as long as I do it. So, it is flexible in that way, and yeah, maybe there would just be a period of a month or 2 where I'm less productive, and that would probably have to make it up afterwards, but yeah, we'll see.
Where are you finding at this point in your career? It seems like you really dabble across roads of different distances, indoor track, outdoor track. You don't always see that with athletes. How do you think about, like your favorite running events?
I think that I might have some recency bias in saying that the marathon is my favorite.
Hey,
In
it's
the
okay with
Boston
us, but
Marathon
yeah,
specifically.
Yeah, maybe that one, I don't know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I don't know, I think that it's all fun.
Oh.
I We usually start off the season by doing more speed work. And like I had a lot of fun doing the 5K and I sort of just feel like I have more to give in like every single event. So I'm just kind of running the gamut. But I also think that they benefit each other. Like I think fitness is fitness and obviously you can get sharper for one specific event. Um, but like doing that 5K, I feel like gave me a lot of confidence to try to go for a fast marathon too.
That's awesome. We're friends with Erica Kemp, and she's Brooke's teammates with Susanna Sullivan. She was like, "Susanna, you're gonna run an indoor 5K?" And she's like, "Well, they gave me these spikes. Like, got to use them." And Eric's
Might as well.
I'm not using mine. Like I think it's fun to see how different athletes who all kind of converge in the same few minutes at a marathon finish line approach it differently. How do you think about the summer? I mean, I feel like um, it's very formed to be like, I should probably get faster this summer, but like, what fires you up?
So that is actually what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
So I am planning on doing some like road 10K and 6K type races. I did make a pitch to go back on the track and that was not I don't want to say it was shot down, but I was oriented away from that. So I will be on the roads. But yeah, I feel like my 10K PR needs, especially my road PR needs some work. So I'll be, yeah, spending some time trying to get speedy and working on actually racing, before starting kind of another marathon build.
Given your academic background, I'm imagining like a full PowerPoint slide, like in Chris's office. Like, as you can see, this would make so much sense. When we talked about racing earlier, I suppose that could mean either like local stuff where you are or like US road, championships around the country.
Yeah, it's the latter. That's what, so now I have an agent. I signed with her like very soon before Boston, and she
Okay.
said, "As many US championships as you can," and I said, "Well, I'm not racing more than once a month." Um, but, yeah, she just said, "As many, like, US start lines as you can get on will be beneficial," especially as I'm kind of trying to pull myself up the ranks in the sport.
Wait a minute. I love that you have a female agent. Who's your agent?
Her name is Natalia Rivas Lopez, and
Okay.
that was actually one of the points that I was like, if I'm gonna have an agent, I want it to be a woman. And I also just really wanted it to be someone that I felt like I could talk to. Because I've met other agents that are just felt kind of like stiff and like I wouldn't want to tell them about my life.
Mm.
But even before I signed with her, we just like went and got coffee and just chatted about everything. And I was like, I feel like hopefully she feels this way too, but I was like, I feel like we could be friends if we were like working in a professional relationship. And I think that's really important just because I mean things are gonna inevitably come up during my running career and I want to be working with someone who I feel like I can trust and actually talk to about like serious things.
What's it like, again, this ascension? I think if you're most amateurs like us, you're like, if you run these times, can't you just be like, hey, I'd like to come to your meet? Excuse me, I'd like to come to the front of the line, but it doesn't sound like that's how it works. Like, what have you been rejected from running races with a 70-minute half marathon PR?
Yes, I have been. I have been rejected before, and it always hurts a little bit, but, I think I thought for a long time that I didn't need an agent. I think it might go back to the being like, "Am I all in or not?" thing, and I
Uh-huh.
talked about this on another podcast, but Natalia actually contacted me after the Boston 5K, and I don't wanna use the term, like, kept her on the hook, but, like, we talked on the phone and we got coffee, and I was just like, "Yeah, you're really nice, but, like, I don't know if I'm ready." Um, because I was sort of like, I got into Boston on my own, like, maybe it's fine." Um, but through talking with her, it's become clear that it is nice to have someone going to bat for you, even if you can get into the race, having someone who can, like, ask for the things that you need. Like, for example, obviously it worked out, but Boston was not able to offer me and one of my teammates a hotel room. So we had to figure out, like, an Airbnb, so it's like she would have been able to go back for me for getting a hotel room, but, like, even if she couldn't do that, like, they have people who are travel agents who could also have helped, like, figure out the travel stuff, so we didn't have to do that on our own. Um, and then the other piece is hopefully at some point a shoe contract would be lovely, and I would consider myself pretty smart, but I do not have business chops. So even if somebody approached me, I would not feel comfortable doing any sort of negotiations. So that is her purview.
Two things I hear is one, the rejection, you like when you say get have a race say no, right? Like that stings. And I immediately in my heart was like, oh, that's how I feel when like a sponsor or like an athlete tells me no, like you're not good enough. Like that's how I feel. Like I'm not big enough, I'm not good enough for you to work with me. But then two, I heard you say that Natalia, your agent, actually reached out to you. Like she pursued you. So like she's being vulnerable as well. Like she's putting herself out there as well. Like, do you want to hire me? So I just think that's such an it's part of the game, right? Like not just in athletics, but like whatever your job is, like the rejection is always a possibility. But if you don't ask, like you don't know what'll happen.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I mean, I do recognize that, especially from races, like, it's part of the business, but again, I'm not a business person, so I think I'm allowed to feel a little bit hurt by it. But yeah, the
Mhm.
fact that she reached out to me did feel really special, especially, the first time we talked on the phone, she was like, "I'm checking, your World Athletics profile, and I see a 17:10 here from a couple years ago," and I was like, "Yes, that is a correct mark that you are seeing." And I mean, I assume she's happy for all of her athletes, but the fact that we signed, right before Boston, and then I ran a 2:24, like, I have to imagine that there was at least a little part of her that was like, "Okay."
Oh yeah. She was excited.
Yeah, she was like, "Okay, no, it's all good, I didn't make a mistake."
Oh, I'm so happy for you. We do not talk to very many athletes who have a female agent. I mean, it's not unheard of, but I mean, I would say 9 out of 10 athletes I talk to have a male athlete. And there's, and I love a lot of those guys. I love Howie, Josh Cox is amazing. But yeah, you just don't see agents as much. So this is exciting to me.
Yeah, she's actually also Gabby Rooker's agent, which was
Okay.
sort of a selling point when I was making decision, because Gabby also lives in Minneapolis, so we kind of know each other and we chatted about her, and she said that that was also, like, a selling point for her. So I was like, "Yeah, yeah."
Oh,
Wow.
so good. Okay, so I have some wrap up questions. Unless Peter, do you have somewhere else you want to take it?
That's great. Yeah.
Okay. Um, so first I want to do this fire round that I just did this at a live podcast and I thought it was kind of fun. And I also did this with Dakota when I did a live show with her. So I was like, oh, we'll see this how this works out with you as well. We'll bring some Minnesota vibes to the The round. So I'm going to say a word, and you tell me what you think of when I say it. Okay. And your
Okay.
answer can be one word or it can be a sentence. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Chris Lundstrom.
Coach.
Okay. Boston Marathon.
PR.
Yay. Brain health.
Sleep.
Ooh. Dakota.
Fast.
Annie.
Nice.
Olympic trials.
Helpful.
Oh, I love it. Okay. And now these are our wrap up questions that, since we're cross promoting this on both shows, these are the questions I always ask at the end of I'll Have Another. I would have sent them to you had we not decided to cross promote 5 minutes before the episode. What is one thing professionally or personally you would like to do in your life that you haven't done yet?
I would love to represent Team USA at something. So it doesn't have to be the Olympics, but before I retire, I would just love to wear the jersey like once.
Love it. I believe it.
Awesome.
I believe it'll happen. I assume you probably don't have a lot of time to read for fun right now, but do you have an all time favorite book or a recent favorite book that you've read?
I actually just finished reading Project Hail Mary, because I wanted to read it before I saw the movie, and I thought it was great. I am definitely like a science fiction or nonfiction type of person, so
Peter, did you read it?
Not yet, but
Okay. Everybody's talking about it.
everyone's
you
talking about
should.
it. Yeah, and it's a lot of fun to have those conversations.
Yeah, I haven't read it yet, but I think I will. Which that's a stretch for me. Like I'm not big sci-fi, so it'll be
You can
I'll be
handle it.
stretching my wings a little bit. Stretching my wings a little bit. If you could go to any concert tomorrow, who would you go see?
Well, I'm going to see Noah Khan this summer, and so I wish that was tomorrow because his new album is amazing.
Did you watch the documentary on Netflix?
Not yet. I haven't had time, but I will.
Oh, it's so
Wait,
good.
are you my friends are in two camps. Like immediately took to the album or it's grown on them? Curious where you fell.
I'm in the second camp. I listened through the first time, and one of my roommates is also a really big fan, and I was like, "I just don't know if this is the album for me." And since then, I've probably listened through, like, another 8 times, and I still, to be honest, the last couple songs on the album, I'm, like, sorta iffy on, but,
Hmm.
the whole first, like, 3 quarters, I'm like, "Yes, this is amazing."
Once you watch the documentary, you're gonna love him even more. He's just like he's so normal. Like I just I just love him. So, so good. The documentary is very well done.
I do think it's
Um,
been a long time just to geek out for a second. Like when they build up to an album, almost, like when T Swift will just be like, boom, new album. And you're like, whoa, shocked the world. Didn't see that coming. Like he was like, album's coming, album's coming. And I think that can kind of warp our brains of like, you just like want it to be good. And you've been thinking about it versus just like it arrives and you have no time to process. I don't know. You're the
I feel like
neuroscientist. You can tell me how that works, but
But no, I'm just like, I think that's almost kind of like what we were talking about earlier about like calling your shot with what you think
uh,
you're gonna run in a race, where it's like
yeah.
he called his shot and was like, the album's coming, and then he even tweeted like the night before, was like, wow, I hope it doesn't suck. It's like, yeah, that is really
Yeah,
vulnerable.
totally. Like
oh, yeah.
so vulnerable. Yeah,
Well, he
I loved
talks
it.
about in the documentary, like, um, I think if I'm repeating this right, like having like a little bit of a dry spell with writing and being like, I need some like pain or something. Like, you know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Like I need somewhere to go where I can go deep to have something good to write about because that album that blew up Stick Season, like it was like during COVID and he had moved back home with his parents and like there was a lot of emotions going on. So, and then he hit it big. And so it's like finding that like place again where you have like sadness, emotion, things to actually write about. I think it took him a little bit longer than he expected. I might be regurgitating that wrong, but that is a part of the documentary that I took from it. Okay, last message to leave with our audience today.
Train your gut when you are going to be running a marathon. That is the single biggest takeaway, I guess, other than eating protein from this marathon cycle. Working with the registered dietitian, she did the whole explanation about like recruiting the receptors in your gut. And if you have not trained them to be ready when you are running your marathon, you can take all the gels in, but you're not going to absorb them. And then it's actually the gels unabsorbed sitting in your stomach is what causes GI distress.
Oh.
So this is the first time that I've done like real gel training. Like I was taking, I think 90 grams of carbs in an hour on all of my long runs. And I was amazed by the end that I was actually able to do it. And I was also amazed by how good I felt on like the 27 miler taking in that many carbs. So take your carbs.
Wow, look at that. We're learning. I knew about practice
Yay!
makes
The
things easier, but not,
receptors.
yeah, the receptors. Man, thank you for that.
Perfect. Thank you so much for coming on the podcasts.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.